Hey there, sim racers. Welcome to the Tool for Forza YouTube channel. Captain Nasty's right here, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the communities that exist outside of iRacing for current sim racing titles. Of course, iRacing has a very dominant kind of hold on the sim racing community because they have by far the best system for grouping people of similar skill sets, into lobbies, and that's a very important part of sim racing. And quite frankly, if other sims did not have that, I probably would be iRacing myself. But I'm not. And, you've seen other videos on that. And I'm trying to be solutions oriented and not be super negative and try to provide some information and some context and like what the sim racing world is like essentially outside of iRacing. So that being said, we're going to talk about, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different sims, and we're going to go through them from the order of highest peak players down to the lowest peak players. Talk about the community in terms of numbers here, so that we're going to be looking at a lot of statistics from Steam, which tells you how many people are driving these sims. These stats are not available for iRacing on Steam because it's not a Steam title, but believe me, there is way more people on iRacing, and it's way easier to get into a race. But for me, that's not really what it's all about. I'm not maximum competition, want to be the best sim racer on the planet guy. I want to have fun, be able to drive the car at the absolute limit with my buddies and people I have rapport with, and kind of get into a community. And I think that's that's a great thing that iRacing provides, is they make it really easy to get into those type of situations once you grind and put your time in. But I think that other sims are definitely worth exploring. If you've invested in a sim rig and you've got a fast computer, you're doing yourself a disservice if all you're doing is iRacing. So let's jump into the numbers here. So the peak, all-time peak sim that's essentially not iRacing is Assetto Corsa. And we'll call it A300. We'll call it 6,700 in the 24-hour peak. But the number we're really going to focus on here is the average number of players, because if you're spread out over a different time zone, right, that's really what matters, is the average number of people that are on. So we have a average of 4,400, which we've seen really amazing growth in Assetto Corsa over the last year. Peak players of 8,300. So if we scroll down here, you'll see that Assetto Corsa, the numbers are low as it was launched, and they only go up from there. So let's talk about the next most popular sim in terms of all-time peak users, and that's Project Cars 2. And let's take a look at the life cycle and the user base of Project Cars 2. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let me say Assetto Corsa does have ranked online matchmaking through the Sim Racing System app, which I'll show you a quick little snippet of that. We'll talk more about SRS at the end of this video. They do have online matchmaking, but it's not, like iRacing where you give them a credit card and you like hop into a race. You have to install Content Manager, and really, if you're going to drive a Assetto Corsa, you have to, Shaders Patch is part of Content Manager, so you need to just click a few things in Content Manager and upgrade to Shaders Patch. You need to install Soul, whatever the most recent version is. I'll put a link to that down below. And that just makes it look really, really attractive and make it look like honestly a 2020 title. I think, especially in VR, Assetto Corsa, for my eyes, is definitely the best driving sim. Again, with Shaders Patch and Soul. And that's the funny thing about Assetto Corsa, is it's not a just jump and go kind of thing. But again, modding it's not hard. So I just formatted my C drive 2 days ago, and I installed AC, I installed Content Manager, I updated my shaders patch, and then I installed Soul literally in less than 5 minutes. But I know what I've been doing it for a while. But if you just follow the instructions, it's like seriously a 10-minute thing to get your Assetto Corsa on point. And then you're gonna want to add mod cars and things like that. And that's one of the main differences in the community between Assetto Corsa and iRacing, is that iRacing, you're in their system. With Assetto Corsa, it is free game. We have people in the Tool for Forza Club that have 1,600 cars and like 300 tracks, for Assetto Corsa. Are they all super high quality? No. Are half of them super high quality? Absolutely. So Assetto Corsa is just like a different thing. But again, if you've built a rig and you've gotten into sim racing, it's really learning Assetto Corsa is not impossible. If you've come this far, just do the journey. So let's take a look at Project Cars 2 here. 6,700 all-time peak, 24-hour, 2,700. Again, so obviously, less than Assetto Corsa. So let's look at the 24-hour peak numbers. Yeah, so it's, like a little more than a third of Assetto Corsa. Now, for the average players, they're at 1,300. So they've seen a nice growth in this coronavirus period, right? You know, going from, we'll call it 30%, right? Going from 1,000 to 1,300. Good growth. Take a look at Assetto Corsa here for the same period. Yeah, so it went from 2,500 to 4,400. So more than a third growth, right? So Assetto Corsa is growing faster than Project Cars 2. And the interesting thing about Project Cars 2 is it hit its peak way back when it first launched, and its next peak was the next month after it launched. So you can see here clearly that Project Cars 2 is not experiencing the same life cycle of users as Assetto Corsa is, and that's for a bunch of different reasons. That's not what this video is all about. We're just here to essentially talk about data. 1,300 average players on Project Cars 2 versus 4,400. So there's 3,000 people that more playing Assetto Corsa. Let's take a look at the next. So I should say Project Cars 2 with the online thing. They have a rating system and a skill system, but it's very convoluted. Quite frankly, I don't understand it. I've played a bit of Project Cars 2 for sure, and they don't have like a ranked system where you can just jump in to like a server and get paired with people around the world like they have, of course, on iRacing, and they do have on Assetto Corsa with SRS. So I think that probably has a lot to do with, with some of these numbers here as well. Let's take a look at the next title, Assetto Corsa Competition, which definitely does have a ranked online system because they've seen, sim developers in 2019 and 2020, they I don't know why it took them so long, but they finally realized, like, holy shit, we need to put people in lobbies together and let them race each other. That's kind of the deal. Yeah. So it's real easy. It's not like Assetto Corsa, the AC1 right here. You install the game, you can grind up and get your safety rating up and get into some servers. So their all-time peak is 4,100, 24-hour peak 3,100. Average players, let's call it 1,500. We'll be nice to them. So again, it's just doesn't compare, right, to AC. It's just there's way more people on AC. But ACC is if you have a fast computer and if you're not into VR. And I'm sorry if you think that ACC runs good in VR, it doesn't. I've got over 1,000 hours in VR, and I really want to love ACC, and it's not a good experience for me. I have an i9-900K at 5 gigahertz and a 2080, and super hot RAM. Not for me, unfortunately. Again, I was only supposed to talk about data. God, I totally fucked up right there. Damn it. All right, let's take a look at the next most popular title, which is really cool, honestly. Now, the name is ridiculous. RaceRoom Racing Experience. If you want to experience racing in a room, I guess. I don't know. Name is bamboozling. They do have an online system that bundles people together, but the user base is very small. The content, it's not open source. There's not like essentially unlimited content. Like there's over 100,000 mods for AC. Okay, so it's But RaceRoom is cool. It drives good. A lot of people struggle to run it in VR, but the average player, we're talking 875 average players. 2150. Now your odds of getting into a ranked race easily on RaceRoom or ACC, right? So of course the competition are much better than ACC if you don't have SRS, right? You pretty much have to mod AC to make it work. But point is, RaceRoom is trying to come up. It was free. You can see this big hump right here where it was free, and they've been able to retain. So that was 2,600 users. So I mean, they lost like 1,000 people once they started charging money for it. Well, point is, you can still get a race on RaceRoom. I think RaceRoom is a sim that's definitely worth getting into. As is ACC, and AC. I guess my point here is that Project Cars 2 is kind of the sim that's petering out, and that's probably because of Automobilista 2, which is built on the same engine. We'll touch on that in a minute. Automobilista 2 is kind of in trouble. But we'll get there. Let's take a look at R Factor 2. So R Factor 2 is a cool sim. It's the foundation for a lot of professional driving sims. And it's kind of its own beast. in regards to, they had a big UI update recently, and it's just our Factor 2 is a really cool sim, but the content is very limited and the community is very limited. And again, 709 average players, 1,500 peak players. It just, I don't think you can probably get a good online race in our Factor 2 unless you're like super super into the community of people that are doing it. So I hate to not recommend our Factor 2, but honestly, it just doesn't have enough users, and that's the point of this video, is to try to help you guys prioritize what you should be looking into. What the? Automobilista 2. These dudes are shitting their pants right now. 642 all-time peak players, and I get it. I am not trying to shit on them. I really, really wanted Automobilista 2 to be like the easy to do online, ranked matchmaking sim that drove like a car and was good. But with 642 peak players, and I mean, it's still in early access. I get it, but you can buy the damn thing. I think these numbers are probably really scaring the developer. The average players is like 200. That's pretty sketch. So the last one we're going to look at is Automobilista 1. And again, I know that Automobilista 1 is like a niche thing. I get that. Like, I get it. Okay. I get it, guys. I get it. But, again, I just wanted to look at Automobilista 1 because it actually, peaked when Automobilista 2 came out. And it's kind of not a thing. I mean, again, 200, it's got the same average players as AMS2. It's just absolutely crazy. Let's take a look at just the peak. So our Factor is at its peak, right now too, which is cool. It's seeing this our Factor is growing. There's been a lot of really cool, like live streaming and things like that on our Factor. So, yeah, that's cool about our Factor. It's tough. So you've stuck with me through more than 10 minutes of this thing. I appreciate that. If you're still here and you want to race AC, come find us on Discord, and we will enlighten you to the holy church of AC, because I honestly believe that it's the most fun driving simulator out there, and the community is really strong because it's not easy to like get into. Like, if people are putting in the time to, and not that it takes that much time, but if people are putting in that effort to get into AC, like, they're probably going to be pretty into driving sims, and that makes the online racing really good. You don't just get all these new people who are doing the big new thing, iRacing, coming into it. So that's a good segue into SRS. And so like full on pants down mode right here. It's 2:30 in the morning for me right now, and there's only 9 people that signed up, for the most recent race. So that's not iRacing like iRacing level. There's probably thousands of people iRacing right now. I mean, there's 9 people driving SRS, but those 9 people will give you, in my opinion, as good or better of a race than you'd get in iRacing. And it's not just about cramming people into lobbies. There is a skill rating system in SRS. There's a safety rating. It's done through incident average in SRS. There's championships, and all, so I'm just going to take a look at the tool for Forza. We're very thankful to Enrique to have our own SRS event. So we've run 3 races so far, and so these are the championship points here. Essentially, it's exactly what it is. It's not. I mean, that's what it is. So they keep track of skill rating, safety rating, points, championships, all that stuff. SRS is absolutely great, and in my opinion, I think that if you sim race to push a car hard and you sim race for fun, honestly, I think that Assetto Corsa is definitely the way to go. And I'm not saying these other sims are not worth trying out, because they're all super cheap, except for AMS2, compared to iRacing, right? I mean, and even AMS2 is cheap compared to iRacing. 110 bucks for the whole full shebang with all the DLC and all that stuff. But that's $100 more than Assetto Corsa, and you have to put in some time and mod it. And I get that your time is worth money, totally understandable. But I think the experience you get in the community you find in Assetto Corsa, because people have to put in time to get into it, and it's not just all about how much you invest. I think that really adds to the community of AC. So try other driving sims. You know, enjoy your sim rig. It's about having fun. If you're frustrated in your sim rig, you try other software. Don't just get rid of it. There are other titles that are amazing. Just don't don't go nuts. Don't do something insane. Sim race. It's fun. Sim racing is fun. It's fun. Believe me, I've done a lot of fun shit. I've been in the Nürburgring. I did 13 laps, you know, I did a Lotus Exige. I did, I don't know, like 10 laps in that. I did 10 laps in a BMW. I raced Pikes Peak. I've done some fun stuff, guys. My my wife was a goddamn cheerleader in high school. All right, like, sorry, oh Jesus, in college. I was trying to look cool and I totally fucked it up. All right, let's end the video. This is Captain Nasty's out. Have fun. Sim race on Assetto Corsa.